Welcome to our podcast, What No Mom Told You, where the rarely spoken truths finally get loud.
I'm Megan Nelson.
And I'm Pauline Walfish. And this is a therapist-led podcast where we talk about the things no one warned you about, the truths that are often kept quiet.
We're naming the messy parts of life: motherhood, fertility, loss, grief, and joy, and everything in between, without judgment.
Because the rarely spoken truths need to be said out loud, and because no one should feel alone.
Welcome to What No Mom Told You.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Pauline Walfish here with my faithful co-host, Megan Nelson. And Megan's going to introduce you to today's guest.
Hi, everybody. So today we have Maya Wilder. Hi, Maya. She's a licensed mental health counselor in the state of New York and a licensed professional counselor in the state of Connecticut. She's also worked for many years and occasionally still does as a university librarian. Is that right? Yeah. And she specializes in treating complex trauma and working with neurodivergent adults. Maya utilizes existential therapy, drama therapy in her clinical work, and she is IFS informed. So today we have her on to actually talk about parenting and the perception of time. So welcome, Maya. We're so happy to have you on.
I'm so happy to be here. I love this podcast and the fact that you're creating a space for moms to say the quiet part out loud. I think that's wonderful.
Thank you. We are trying because there's a lot that needs to be said and we're not talking about it. And if we hear one more person say like, nobody told me that was going to happen, our heads might explode. So
actually, my new formula is every time they say, well, nobody told me, I'm like, then how about you join us on our podcast?
It's a recruiting pitch.
Totally. It's a total recruiting pitch now.
Yeah.
Like, wow. So you and I talked a couple of weeks ago, and I think your approach to this perception of time is so interesting. Can you talk a little bit about like how you see parents, what parents are missing when we do or don't think about time?
Yeah, I think when we don't think about time, we as parents are missing an opportunity to do things differently, to course correct, to try something else, right? I think the phrase that I heard that really like threw me as a mom was when someone said, if you're having to repeat the same thing over and over again to your child, they're not the one who doesn't understand. And I was like, oof. I was like, okay, got it. I was like, what? That can't be. No, wow.
And literally myself this morning.
But that really, shook something up in me. And I realized, okay, yeah, I'm literally repeating the same thing and expecting different results. And I often tell my clients that progress is not a straight line. It's not like you start here, you end here. It's a spiral going up, and you're going to keep encountering the same things over and over again. It's just that every time you encounter it, you have an opportunity to do things differently. You're higher up on the spiral, you have a different perspective, you have new information, you can do things differently. And so when I started thinking about time in my parenting, I started thinking about, okay, I've been here before. Instead of being surprised that I'm complaining about the same thing, I'm going to take a moment to be like, okay, I'm here again. I can expect to be here again in the future. What can I do differently now?
Mm-hmm. It's almost like expectation. It's like this expectation that we hold as like, my mind is going so many different places right now, even like thinking about, okay, for instance, I have a 14-year-old and every time I'm going into his room and it's a mess and I'm telling him to clean it up, it's like, in my mind, I'm like, is it always going to be like this? Is he ever going to like figure it out? And that creates this like distress that's not actually happening in the moment.
Yes. Yeah. And that totally warps our perception of time. We feel so in the now. And as therapists, I'm sure you can relate that we always want to encourage the here and now. But as moms, we're like so in the here and now that we forget about the long-term goal. And so I had to kind of switch it to, okay, actually, it's not always going to be, why can't he clean his room? It'll be some version of me trying to tell him something that I think he should do a certain way and him maybe pushing back against it or seeming resistant. And so instead, I was like, okay, how can I do things differently? So I know with my kiddo, when it came time to cleaning the room and I felt like I was nagging, when he was little, he was like, "Oh, I don't like when you raise your voice. I don't want you to yell." So I started getting really silly with it. And it was back when Dora the Explorer was really big. So if there was something out, I'd walk into the room and I'd be like, "Look, a clue. Can you say clue?" And I'd be pointing to the sock that needed to be picked up or the cup that needed to go in the sink or whatever. And he would just kind of chuckle and go along with it. And then once he was a teen, I kind of switched it to like playing like really retro, like cringy music and making him, singing along to it. And he'd be like, "Okay, please stop. Like I'll go do the thing." And so I never raised my voice. I never, activated any part of him. I never felt particularly activated. And then he would clean. And now he's at a point where he's kind of initiating and doing these things himself without me having to jump in. So I just kind of recognize the fact that, like, yeah, I'm always going to be circling back around to something, and I can just change my approach.
Right. Like this moment in time isn't going to last forever.
Hmm.
What about like when there's real time challenges? Like my kids are older now, but I will never forget like trying to get them out the door on time to get to school. And it's funny, you're like, I never yelled. I yelled. And also I totally
Oh,
agree
I've
with that like
yelled. Just
Instagram
kidding.
video. It's like I wouldn't have to yell if you listened the first
Just
time I said it. Right? But, like, sometimes time's really happening, like, we have to be out the door, we're gonna sit in traffic, and you're gonna get to school in time, so, like, what tips do you have for when time is, like, real?
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes things are time sensitive. I've been there before. I don't want to make it seem like I'm some saint who's never yelled. Like,
Okay, thank you.
and one of my favorite kind of memes going around is like, I want to be gentle parenting, but these kids don't be gentle kidding. And I'm like, yeah, exactly.
seriously.
But I have, again, tried to switch. Okay, I'm here again saying this, and it's the same thing every single time. What can I do differently? And so I've said to my kid, like, okay, we're going to now start waking up earlier. We're going to now need to be in the car 30 minutes before we actually do, because I know we're going to be probably 30 minutes late. So it'll get us to the car on time. Like, I'm going to start changing out different things and approaches to see if something shifts, whether it's setting out the clothes or whatever. Like, we're going to start tweaking stuff
So
because something.
this is like when I tell my husband's family that the party starts 30 minutes earlier than it actually starts.
Yep.
We've all got that friend or family member that we're like, "I'll meet you there at 6:15," knowing they'll be there at 6:30, and then it's like, "Okay,
Yeah.
I'll show up at 6:30." Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So we're just using, I'm a big believer that all skills are transferable. So we're literally using the skills we already use with other people and we're just applying it to the situation with our kid. And then also, communicating that some things are time sensitive and there's no dilly dallying with this. One book I read that I definitely want to make a reread because it was super informative, and it was called The Unthinkable, and it was about what makes it so that people survive like catastrophic events, right? Like the survivors of a crash, or like what are the really common variables was people paying attention to the directions, but then also it increased like success rates when people explained why they were instructing people to do things a certain way. So I started kind of incorporating that a little bit, and I found that that works as a parent, right? It holds true in any situation, but if you tell people why you want them to do something, they tend to lock in a bit faster and be a little bit more compliant. And so now it's not mom's just nagging to nag. It's no, we literally, this appointment is so important because blah, 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 not get in the car now. It's more, this is why. And then people tend to feel, regardless of age, tend to feel more galvanized into, okay, I'm going to actually do something.
It,
Right.
like, provides some buy-in, really. It's like they're
Yes,
then it's
100%.
a feeling of, like, choice almost even, too. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I learned that with my son at some point. Like, he needed to understand the why for everything, even when it was annoying to me. And my husband would be like, "Why are you explaining to him?" I'm like, because this is how he'll do it. Like, I have to explain, like, if you don't, run the water over the dishes, then, and if my husband's listening, he's laughing because it's me that doesn't run the water over the dishes. That was like the first example I could think of.
You're like, the call's coming from inside the house. It's me.
Yeah. It's okay. I'm a terrible dishwasher loader, and my husband has to reload it. I'm like, they'll still get clean. So, yeah.
To you, Megan, like, it really doesn't have to be so perfect.
I'm a big believer in like functionality, whatever works for you. So run the dishwasher twice. Like if it didn't get clean the first time, run it again.
Person who lived in this city without a dishwasher for 15 years, I'm like, who? It's a miracle that we have a machine that does it. Who cares if we have to run 2 loads in 2 days? I don't care.
Like you've time traveled. You're like, what is this?
Yeah.
Dishwasher?
Serious. I love it. People are like, I don't use my dishwasher. I'm like, why? It's the greatest invention of all time. Talk about time saver. I mean, to me, yeah.
One of my like favorite quotes about time and parenting, which I don't think really like I can tell you, like I didn't believe it until now that my kids are older, but that saying, the days are long, the years are short. Ugh, like I could just cry saying it now. Like those early years, like I remember being like, oh my God, when is it going to be bedtime? And now, like, my kids are driving and dating and out of college. Like, and that it was like yesterday that I was like, isn't it time to go to sleep?
It comes fast, and 100% that saying really sticks with me. There are days even now that still feel long, and I'm like, okay, I gotta get through this. But closer and closer we get, like now that we're talking colleges, I'm like, okay, so do they have bunk beds, and can I come too? Like I'm not ready to say goodbye. So that's an adjustment, right? And I think, you saying that made me think of something else, how something that's been helpful to me. And I think when we think about this perception of time is we're parenting for today, but we're also parenting for tomorrow. And by tomorrow, I mean like way out into the future. I think so many times we can feel activated and so entrenched in the moment that we forget the long-term goal and what we want things to look like in adulthood for our kid or for the family as a whole.
Maya, after we initially had talked a few weeks ago, I obviously, when you start talking about something, that's the thing I love about this podcast is like in the weeks or days after, it's like comes up in things. And I'm like, oh, wait. And I was talking to someone and they were saying like, my kids are little and then it's so hard during the week because I only have an hour in the morning and I only have an hour at night before they go to bed and work in between and then like and it's the days are just those days are so hard, whereas on the weekends they're fine. And she's like, I guess it's just because there's like so much to do. And I was like, and maybe it's your perception of the only having an hour. And I was like, what does that mean to you to only have an hour? And they were like, that I'm losing something. And it's like, they're like, I feel like on the weekend, if we yell, if somebody cries, if there's scraped knee and it takes up the hour, then I have the whole day to make up for it, or it feels like that. Whereas like, I feel like I'm losing time. Yeah.
100%. That's such a good catch because I feel like more often than not, the things that we're upset about really have nothing to do with our children and everything to do with us, right? It's like, are you upset that is it that they're not listening, or are you maybe low key feeling some anxiety because you feel like you're losing time. You feel like you're not sure what to do next or how to kind of right the ship, or like you're not sure which way to go, or it's not going as you planned, right? And you're actually grieving the fact that things look different than you expected. And it's not, my kid isn't, I only have an hour, or my kid isn't doing this, my kid isn't doing that. And that can be, it's like once you see it, you can't unsee it.
See the puzzle pieces kind of everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. It comes up with parents all the time of like, I I thought I was doing okay. I was totally, regulated. And then I realized that we didn't have our clothes picked out and the bus was coming. And then I don't know, it all fell apart. Right. Like,
100%. Yeah, things can always go left. We're expecting it to go right, but it can definitely go left. And it's one of those things where, instead of being shocked about it, like I'll start to tell clients, like, let's expect it, that at some point we're going to circle back around to an instant that feels like this. What do we wish our past self could have done differently? And we can prepare for our future self. So, just kind of knowing like, okay, I'm here. Things are not going the way I thought. We're running out of time. You know what? Last time I wish I'd remembered that I can, drop them off. I can call in the school, say, they're going to be late. I can do like, I can pivot, do something. There's, I don't know, a break glass in case of emergency outfit kind of waiting in the wings to go on the kid. Like there's always something and just kind of adjusting in that way while still feeling the feelings, right? Like I'm not saying don't feel the feelings, don't get upset because we're human. Like it's going to be that way, but also giving yourself permission to change your mind because I don't feel like people do that a lot. Like I don't, and sometimes I outright ask clients, like I'm famous for that, just asking questions that kind of slam on the brakes. And I'm like, are you allowed to change your mind? And more often than not, I hear no, or almost always a very, very long pause. And I think that kind of ties in with the time thing because I think of the concept of the sunk cost fallacy that we as humans don't want to abandon the way we're doing something if we feel like we invested a lot of time. So we see it with objects. People don't want to discard or declutter because they're like, but I spent so much money on it. Yeah, but the money's already gone. But I'm in for a penny, in for a pound. Like I already invested. And it looks this way with kids. We're going back and forth with the child and I'm going to take away, the Xbox and I'm going to do this. And so now you're like, I can't walk this back.
Yeah.
I admit that
Yeah.
you're like, you're digging in your heels. And now it's no longer about whatever it is that you initially wanted them to do. And everything's just about, yeah, like I can't abandon ship right now. I've already invested too much. So just giving ourselves permission to change our minds it can be pretty radical.
Do you know what this reminds me of? Is like conversations or things around recovery, where it's that idea that like, well, as therapists, we know relapse happens and that's part of recovery, right? But then it's that feeling of like I lost if I relapse. And what we know and what I tell people or when I was working with people in recovery is that but you have so much more that you're bringing with you. This is not the same, the same that it was the initial time. You're not going back. You are here and you have all of this information, all of this recovery under your belt too that you can use to go forward to. And it's that slight cost.
1,000%.
Yeah.
And it makes you just saying that made me think of the saying, you're not starting from scratch, you're starting from experience. Like you're like, it feels like starting over, but like you have so many more tools in your emotional toolbox now than you had before. You have resources now, you have community now. Like it can look so differently.
What about when there are either adults or children who have, like you work with neurodivergent adults. So maybe time management, time perception is not one of their stronger, skills.
you mean like time blindness?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the ability to clock, no pun intended, the passage of time, right, can definitely be, impacted with, ADHD, with different, challenges, different neurotypes. And so I think in those instances, I really try to encourage the client, like we kind of co-create and set up systems that help them succeed. And it's very individual. I upfront tell my clients, I don't care how anyone else does it. We're going to find a way that works for you. It literally doesn't matter if it works for everyone. Everyone else does really great with a planner and they have a calendar on their fridge and it goes great. Great for them. I want to find out what works for you and how you can organize your time and manage your time in a way that makes sense. My only rule, so to speak, is can't hurt yourself, can't hurt anyone else. Other than that, if you feel like you can keep time best by having a sundial in the middle of your living room, like buckle up, we're going to get a sundial. That's what it is. So I usually encourage kind of visual trackers of time that helps. So there's like the clocks, like the timers where you see like the red, like it blocks out physically on the face of the clock how much time is passing as it's counting down. So it's not just we got to leave in 30 minutes. You're seeing the passage of 30 minutes. You can just glance over, see how much of the red space is left and be like, oof, I really got to kick it into high gear, right? So there's that. Also, blocking out the calendar so you're scheduling as much as humanly possible, even the things that don't feel like they needed to be scheduled, right? Some people maybe just put a meeting on the calendar and that's it. But if you're having trouble tracking the passage of time, let's schedule going to the gym, cooking dinner, taking a shower, like, and everything gets a different color. So you can look at your calendar and see where you are in the day and what needs to happen. And with that, usually it's kind of an internal clock starts to build up a little more. You might always need those supports, but there's ways to kind of boost that internal clock so you can be like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I see that now.
Yeah. I'm learning that in real time. But, with this podcast, it's like adding tasks to that are time sensitive that I had never like that, I would be like before I'd be like, "Oh, I can keep this in my head." And I'm like, "No, no, this needs to come out Friday, this needs to come out Wednesday, this needs to come out."
Yep.
And meanwhile, I'm like, "I'm not going to remember that. That doesn't get the weekly task anymore." Like
No.
weekly tasks are not cutting it. I need Monday tasks. I need Tuesday tasks. I need Friday tasks.
I
Like that.
also happen to notice that your calendar is starting to take on some color coding, just like mine. I do love that.
I love it. It makes it functional. Again, the goal is functionality. It doesn't matter if it works. If there's someone down the block who's like, I just remember everything. Good for you.
Yeah.
I need lots of colors and I need, alarms going off to let me know 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Okay, got to be in this meeting. And I'm sure you've seen it as clinicians, right? That having that structure and support, a calendar for clients, it's building up your own internal clock. So now you probably clock the passage of an hour more easily internally. Like if someone were to ask you, how many minutes has it been since we started talking? You might be able to be like, oh yeah, it's been like 15, 20 minutes. Like, yeah, like you kind of know now and you're starting to read it because you've had so many other instances where you had to actually manage your time to meet clients and patients and things like that. So it's
We
definitely,
can live our life in 45-minute blocks.
I'm sorry,
yeah.
I work on the hour. But, when you think about parenting and like that building up your internal clock, and I'm saying this from experience, it's so important to let your kids do it on their own and not just be dependent on your clock,
I'm in the
right? Like,
middle of that. I'm struggling with that, to be honest. Yeah.
right? And if I could turn back time and do things differently, right? I would not be their alarm clock, right? Like, it's just we can't do it internally for them. And you said it earlier, but the things that we're doing as parents now are not just for now. Whole purpose of doing it now is to teach them that when they go away to college, they can set an alarm and they can wake themselves up. And I think as
Like
parents, we're
Eleanor.
like, oh, no, it's our job. It's our job to wake them up. Like, no, it's your job to help them to learn to wake up.
Yeah. I was going to say, there's an element of scaffolding. Like, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's something that people don't tell moms either. That scaffolding is a part. I always say, like, when it comes to becoming a mom, like, there's so much fine print. And every time I glance again, there's more fine print that I didn't see the last time. And I'm like, scaffolding. Didn't know that was a part of it. Okay. Because, yeah, when they're little, it's expected, socially expected that you be their clock. And no one talks about the gradual shift where now you're supposed to teach them how to be their own clock, but no one tells you when to do that, how to implement it. And so it's a lot of trial and error.
And it's hard because you need to get out the door and get to school on time.
Yeah. Or
So
it's like,
it's also like letting them fail or be late. Like earlier you said like, okay, we're going to be late today. And I almost stopped you to say like, okay, can you be late? Like, is that a thing that can happen? And like, do you believe like what's going to happen if you're actually late? Like,
Mhm. And then it becomes, again, it's not about the time, it's not about the kid, it's about our own anxiety. Like, what are we so scared is going to happen if it doesn't go according to plan. Ideally, we'd all be on time and it would all go perfectly. But that fear that's coming up, I think, is very, very human. We all feel it. And I often talk to clients about this too. We live in a society that really deeply values what I call crisis culture. Everything's an emergency all the time. I need this end of day. We have to be here. And everyone encourages it. And I'm, a pretty big believer that there's only a handful of situations that are true crisis. Like, unless someone's dialing 911, we have not hit crisis territory. And so I have to sometimes check myself and be like, okay, is this a true emergency or am I just really frustrated right now because I imagined us being on time and now it looks like we're going to be late and this. And what would it look like if I just called the doctor's office and said, sorry, like we just aren't going to be able to make it. Can we, is there a later time available? Did someone cancel and something open up and we can come then, or whatever the case may be? And more often than not, communication really kind of takes away the fear. Like, if you just ask the right questions, you'll be like, oh, okay, it's not that serious. But also holding your kid accountable and being like, you have to learn to do this on your own. And this kind of goes back to what I was talking about in the beginning, how people are more likely to buy into a situation if they know why. So now I have the kind of conversations where I tell my kid, like, I'm telling you this because when you have a job, when you're in college, like, no one's going to be chasing after you to be on time to something. No one's going to be checked. Like, you have to do it. And yeah, it's a clunky learning curve for sure.
Yeah. My kid is figuring this out on his own because he sometimes has to do things the hard way. And he'll be like, "Wow, it's so stupid. I got there like 10 minutes late and they wouldn't see me." And I'm like, yeah, that, that, that's why. He was like, "But it's ridiculous. It was just 10 minutes." I'm like, I didn't make up the rules. I haven't been saying it for 20 years because I made it up. But, like, in hindsight, like, I was doing it for him and now he's figuring it out on his own. And partly because I did it for him and partly because that's just who he is. He's just somebody who has to figure it out on his own. And that's okay.
Well, and the ability to do that increases too. Like, that's one thing I have to remember. Their prefrontal cortex is not fully formed. Like, it's still forming. And that me telling my 14-year-old, like, over and over again, I'm like, okay, he is not remembering based on me repeating it over and over again. So now what do I have to do? And literally this week, I was like, I need to teach him how to put things on his calendar in his phone and like set an alert for something. Like, I haven't taught him how to do that. I've told him, you have to do this every day, or you have to, study for biology. It's coming up. You have 2 weeks. We have to manage your time. What does manage his time even mean to him?
For a kid?
He's like, manage my video games versus hanging out with friends versus when I get to eat versus like having to go to school. He has no concept. Like, and I'm like, oh, that's the missing link for me, is I'm thinking he understands it from my perspective. And I have 30 years on him. Yeah. And I probably didn't get it figured out until I was like, well, I'm still figuring it out. But like,
I was going to say, I got it figured out like last Tuesday. Like,
yeah.
yeah. But you just said something that made me think of something else when you're like, I got 30 years on him. I think that was probably the first time I started thinking about time, when my son was maybe like 2. And I read a book on conscious parenting that really shifted something in my brain. And it was like, what if you parent from a place where you're guiding them simply because you've been alive longer? Not to control anything, but you're literally just operating from a space of, I've been alive longer, so I'm going to show you how to use a fork. And I'm going to show you how to go to school, and I'm going to show you how to study, and blah, blah, blah. And that started kind of shifting something in me and me thinking about time back then. And now I feel like it still continues to inform me. Like, except I'm saying the quiet part out loud, right? To get his buy-in. I'm saying, like, I'm not nagging you just to nag. I'm literally telling you this because I've been alive longer and I know what it takes to get through high school and get into college. And so, maybe try it this way. So it's interesting what we think of as old and what changes as we get older, but then also as our kids get older. And really just kind of coming back to a place of, I'm going to try to guide you because I've been alive longer. And that's my qualification.
Yeah. And then they start to guide us at some point, I think. Yeah. So what would you say is the one thing that no mom told you that you had to learn the hard way?
Okay. I think the one thing that no mom told me is that as a mom, your second most valuable resource is time, and your most valuable resource is the way you think about time. And when you change the way you think about time, parenting can go a lot smoother.
Goosebumps.
Yeah.
Change the way you think about time.
This has been a real treat having you on today.
It's been a treat being here. This is so great.
I
And
mean,
time moves so fast when we are in podcast land.
Yes, very true.
yeah. And I feel like even like reading your bio, I'm like, oh, there's so many things like we could, dive in, and we'd love to have you on more about that. I mean, get too far into it, but like, when she and I were talking earlier, it's like my first career was an actor. You do drama therapy, and I'm like terrified of doing drama therapy. So I think that could be
So
so cool to talk about.
We have to talk about it. Like my clientele, I always say I do my best work with creatives, caregivers, and the courageous, right? And so I work with so many different professionals in so many different creative industries, and there's so many life lessons I feel like baked into managing creativity and life in general. And yeah, and then parenthood. Yeah, there's a lot to discuss.
Yeah, we should definitely talk about creativity and parenthood. I love that idea. That'll be my jam. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us, and to be continued on a different topic.
Yes, thank you for having me.
It was great to have you here. The time has flown by. So, and we have so much time ahead of us today. So
Yes, we
get
do.
outside, see the sun. It's beautiful out there.
It is.
We'll talk to you again soon. Bye, everybody. Thanks for spending this time with us. If you found yourself nodding along or saying, same, that's kind of the point.
We hope you leave today feeling a little less alone. This is what no mom told you. And yeah, there's more where that came from.